What is up, guys? I'm Andres.
This is RB3.
And this is The Meaning of Podcast, the podcast where we talk about your favorite film directors and the deeper meaning within their films.
Yep.
And RB3, over this weekend, we had a very big movie come out. Officially October's biggest movie, and that is Joker, directed by Todd Phillips. So this episode is going to be all about Todd Phillips' career. Yeah. So we get into, obviously, the Hangover movies. Most of his movies are all comedies, so we'll talk about that. But the main reason why is because of Joker and Joker's success. Officially made, I believe, $93 million opening weekend. Like I said before, making it October's biggest movie. I think it's the fourth largest R-rated opening of all time.
Oh, good for that.
Either way, it's a massive success. Yeah. It's a big deal. Everyone's talking about it. Film Twitter is up in arms.
Everyone got their hot takes.
Everyone got their hot takes. Yeah. We did our review about it.
Yeah, you had some of a hot take.
I kind of did, but at the same time, I heard some other reviews, and I wasn't apparently that hot. A lot of people kind of...
Yeah, shit on it, man. Come on. Just give it to me.
Not shitting on it, but like kind of being like bringing down levels of expectations, I guess. My buddy and I were talking about it the other day, and we both agreed that it's a solid movie. It's like it's a good movie, but I just feel like it just didn't reach that level of hype that everyone was touting it after the Venice Film Festival, where it won, I believe, the Golden Lion. Yeah. For best film. So we obviously gave our takes. I kind of want to start there, RB3. Just on our review in general. Are you okay with it? Has your mind changed? Do you feel the same way?
No, I'm good, man. I mean, I've been singing the praises of Joker, since I saw it, and I still really dig it. I think to me, there hasn't really been a movie I saw in a long time that actively inspires me to like watch other movies or like just participate in cinema, man. Listen to the score. Like I went home, listened to the score for Joker. I watched Taxi Driver the other day because I love Joker so much. I was like, let me get some of that OG goodness, you know what I mean? And that's what maybe I like the most about it. If this is a movie, we see a lot of movies that are paying homage to other previous generations and eras, like all throughout this entire summer and year. But if this is a movie that's going to point people in the direction of Martin Scorsese, I'm all for it, man. I think about it this way. Joker represents the 70s, Martin Scorsese movies, or 70s movies in general. By the way, what I realized, the font for Joker is actually the same font for Rocky. So that's actually, that's another crucial 70s reference. But Joker, 70s movies, Avengers Endgame, I'd probably argue is like 80s science fiction movies references. You know what I mean? Particularly Back to the Future. They also reference like Time Bandits and all these other ones. Captain Marvel, 90s action movies. Spider-Man Far From Home, 2000s Disney Channel movies. You know what I mean? So it's like all of them are covering spectrums of...
Equally, all is good.
Yeah. Well, for me, I like the 70s one significantly more than like those...
The Disney Channel? I think the same level. Same level, bro. Yeah. Martin Scorsese and Xenon Girl of the 21st Century.
Yeah.
Zoom, man.
Yeah, man.
I don't know.
Also, which is really ironic that this movie is so identical to like Taxi Driver and shit like that. That now we have this whole Martin Scorsese and Marvel conversation happening simultaneously as this movie. So
which I consider, if I'm being, let's just talk about it. Why not? I think that's a non-story, if I'm being honest, man. I don't know what people expected for Martin Scorsese to say about the MCU. It's not changing my perspective on Martin Scorsese, and it's not changing my perspective on Marvel movies or the MCU in general. My point of view doesn't get changed, and cinema isn't just this one genre or one style or one era of movies. Movies can change and develop and evolve and still be quality. I just hate this idea, like I told you a couple weeks ago on this podcast, of pick a side. Which is it? Indie art house movies or blockbuster movies? I'm like, no, I don't have to pick a side. I can love Star Wars with all my heart and still love A Ghost Story or love Scorsese 70s films or love old school awesome great movies or love modern indie movies and be a champion for those movies equally as much as MCU. I can love the MCU as much as I love A24, which I do. Or I can love Martin Scorsese as much as I love Kevin Feige or James Gunn. Like, I think it's fine. Like, this is a non-story in my opinion, but whatever. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, listen, bro. Like, we're talking about Martin Scorsese here.
He's 77 years old.
Well, it's not even that. Like, if there's one person who gets to say like what he feels about movies and not get any ridicule,
he can say whatever he wants,
it's fucking Martin Scorsese. And by the way, people got to understand. You know, for all you Marvel heads who are going at Marty here.
I don't. To be fair, I haven't seen that many. I've seen a few. Have you?
All over my Twitter feed.
I haven't seen it. Okay.
And it's the same fucking people too, and we gotta talk about that one of these days. You know what I mean? Like,
I haven't seen
same people who claim to be these critics, but they only watch like 3 or 4 fucking type of movies or whatever.
Oh, okay.
So,
now I want
you know who I'm talking about now, right?
I kind of do.
Yeah.
I think I do.
And I hate that, man. We're talking about Martin Scorsese. This is the man. Besides his filmography aside, put the filmography aside, there's been no single filmmaker who has been more instrumental to the restoration of more silent movies, of more classic movies, more foreign movies than Martin Scorsese has been responsible for. No filmmaker. I would put Martin Scorsese next to Roger Ebert when we're talking about the truest cinephiles in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I could get if you disagree with his assessment. I don't agree. You know what I mean? I like Marvel movies. We both like Marvel. We all like Marvel movies. But damn it, if he doesn't like Marvel movies,
that's fine.
Leave him alone.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man.
It's a non-story.
It is a non-story. And I hope this gives people the opportunity to really understand what impact Martin Scorsese has had on cinema. And you know, it's funny, too, because the same people who are like, Martin Scorsese, he's just old and out of touch. They're the same people who will regularly go on whatever platform they represent and be like, you know what? They'll say this like it's an intelligent point, you know? Marvel movies, you know? Not really movies. It's like a Marvel television show, you know? Like, they'll say that, you know what I mean? Like, and it's like, okay, like, you're already discrediting. I don't even agree with that, you know? Like, movies are movies, damn it. So, I don't know, man. I'm over it. Yeah.
But I kind of like your argument, RB3, going back to Joker, that if anything, Joker is introducing the 70s vibe and the Martin Scorsese vibes and Taxi Driver and King of Comedy to a modern generation. That's kind of a good point. I never really thought of it like that.
I love it. And honestly,
because I'm a big proponent of that.
Yeah,
sure.
And you know, that's part of why I really enjoy. I mean, I talk about Tarantino pretty much every episode, but that's why I enjoy him, because a lot of his movies give you a great window to go into other movies. Literally, each song on one of his soundtracks are usually from another movie. So in watching one of his films, you literally get, just from the soundtrack alone, you get 20 other windows that you could go into and explore just based on the music or just based on the shot references and stuff like that.
Yeah, it almost kind of reminds me, and obviously I'm reaching here, but whatever, this is what I do, I reach.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of when I see reboots and remakes or pre-sequels or whatever they're called now of movies in the past taken to the modern era, and people hate that. And obviously I get why you hate it. It's whatever, it's repetitive. I understand the criticism towards it, but at the same time, I've always argued that good or bad, it can lead you to watch the original. And I have stressed that so many times, but a great example, and I know this is a perfect example for you, is Blade Runner 2049. You could say all the crap you want about the movie, but at the end of the day, a lot of people, went back to watch the original. Oh, I've never seen that one before. A lot of people were like, you know what movie I've never seen? Blade Runner.
Yeah.
They went back to watch it just because that one's coming out in theaters. And you're like, oh, I should probably go see that. A lot of people said the same thing about Joker. Or maybe I should see Taxi Driver. I've never seen it before.
Yeah.
There you go.
That same thing people have said about MGM's filmography.
Yeah.
Yeah, they literally have been remaking their same movies
you're right. That's a good point.
over just years.
Yeah.
But
let's go back to Joker.
Yeah.
Same thoughts? Same feelings?
Well, see, and here's also the thing too, bro. Like, going into the movie, I also was just ready to shit on it. Not with anything to do.
Wow, we went in with different eyes.
Well, see,
I went in ready to like Chronic King.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why I was oh man.
Well, see, I was ready I was so hyped for it. I mean, this is probably the most hyped movie I've ever been.
Oh,
but the day before, I saw a clip on Jimmy Kimmel with Joaquin like literally cursing out the fucking DP. I'm like, this is what this movie is going to be like. And it obviously it's a behind the scenes moment. It has no reflection of what the movie is. but it's fucking nasty, man. Like, and people go around and praising, like Joaquin, you're just in character. How, the DP isn't wrong. For people who don't understand, directors of photography, their crew occupies dozens, if not hundreds, of lighting people, camera people, grip people. So if he needs to whisper every now, that's literally part of the practice. He's doing his job in the same way that Joaquin was doing his job. So just the fact, it was, and to be fair, it was probably all stage anyway. Joaquin is probably one stage. Yeah. But the fact that people would celebrate that and champion that is fucking nasty. And same thing with Todd Phillips with the whole woke culture shit. I got
in trouble for it.
Yeah, I don't think you got in trouble. You're speaking the truth, bro. Yeah. That's what's happening. But Todd, and then even Kimball was like, "Oh yeah, Todd Phillips sent us this behind the scenes clip." It's fucking nasty. I went into the movie. I was like, if Todd Phillips takes his material and just does the same douchebag white guy pro shit that he doesn't I love Hangover. If he does that same shit with this material, I'm not gonna fuck with it. You know what I mean? And so I was ready to shit on it. So
maybe that's why you came a little bit more positive than I did. I don't know, because I came in with completely different eyes. Yeah. I never saw that clip, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. It was nasty to me, man. Yeah. And I just think that all of that is not a Joaquin thing. It's not a Joker thing. It really, all of this whole controversy leading up to days before, even to Todd Phillips going up at the premiere and be like, I'm not going to say any words. I'm just going to let the film speak for itself. It just all felt like the most douchiest fucking thing. And I wish I didn't have to say that right before we're talking about his movies, because I am going to do a lot of praising on the Hangover stuff, But that's ridiculous. That all of the things rolling up to the next few days before the movie came out was just ridiculous.
Sure.
So,
but the movie itself.
I dug, man. I really dig it. So I can.
Did you rewatch it by any chance?
No, I didn't. Okay. I'm just scared, man. I'm scared, man. They're gonna really put the sniper on me. This dude's a suspect. You've been seeing those.
It's not even that controversial.
Bro, we have four undercover officers in our screening, bro. 4.
Well, that's completely. It's not there to shoot you for watching a movie.
Nah, man. But you gotta be careful, man. You just gotta be careful. No. They might think this dude, a young kid, little liberal. And see, that's part of what I've loved about this movie after I've seen it, is just seeing the discourse of people who some people are willfully ignoring the political message here. I think there's a very strong political message here. Michael Moore even has been on a pro-Joker campaign because he understands the leftist agenda that this movie's really trying to promote here. And I've been digging on that front too. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Because I could say a lot about that. In fact, I will, because this is a podcast.
Yeah, get to it.
Don't you think it's kind of the opposite?
No.
That will willfully ignore the people who are willfully ignoring it is kind of the majority? I feel like that's the majority of the people. I feel like most of the people who enjoyed this movie and are praising it and are going on Twitter, saying it's the greatest movie of all time, kind of don't even. They're like, Joker's not political. He even says it himself in the movie. He says it's not political.
Oh no! So if you're
that's what I'm not arguing for the movie itself. I'm arguing for the reaction.
If you literally walk out of that movie thinking that, you're the most politically inept person in the entire world.
Okay.
Like, they literally tell you from the very beginning, literally after he shoots the 3 guys, the very next scene, newscast. There's a new revolution arising. It looks like the poor people. They basically literally tell you the poor people are championing Joker because he killed a bunch of rich dudes, or they're championing the clown because he killed a bunch of rich dudes.
Interesting.
That's literally what the movie tells you from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And it keeps that message rolling throughout. And, people who are, and the reason why a lot of the fear-mongering around this movie has been going on from the big news agencies and all this stuff is because they're legitimately afraid of what a kind of rise up would look like, what kind of revolutionary thing would look like. Same thing happened when Do the Right Thing came out. This is totally different than Do the Right Thing, but same thing happened back then when that came out. People were afraid of violence because it promoted something that was outside of the mainstream consciousness, at least in news media.
I kind of disagree.
I really do.
I really do. Because this whole movie is giving you an idea of someone who if you transfer Arthur Fleck's story in 2019, he's got an issue. He's got mental issues and mental problems, mental health issues. He feels neglected. He has this odd relationship with his mother. He's completely isolated. He feels neglected by society itself. He's an older white guy, and I mean you can't ignore that. The kind of groups he would cater towards is the kind of groups that would promote violence
so here's
towards the people who are ignoring his pain, who don't see where he's coming from. So you know what? He's going to take it into his own hands, buy a gun or take a gun and just stir shit up because he feels neglected and he's been abused and he's an angry white dude who needs to take out his revenge. That's this is where you
I
can make that argument.
But this is a different argument. I think you're talking more about the character of the Joker. What I'm talking about is the world, the Gotham City that they're building, this society that is so twisted and so fucked up and so poor And the Nolan Batman films, they attribute to the chaos because the Batman is because he's scaring people and people are going crazy. This society, there's no superheroes, there's no supervillains. It's just a whole bunch of regular people, but they're all so disheveled by the economic situation that they are willing to look at this clown figure as a symbol of justice. So that's where I think, to me, it's like the Joker isn't even. I'm not even talking about him, and like when I'm talking about what the movie is talking. I'm not referring to that. Like I'm talking about the world that the movie establishes and how the revolution at the end of the movie that they are alluding to is based on the economic disparagement.
But what about everything else I said? What about the character himself?
I mean, the character is the character, and I think a lot of people. I mean, it's not like people didn't see Taxi Driver and went out to start shooting people. I don't think anybody. In fact, I personally don't think anybody watches Taxi Driver and thinks.
Didn't they?
But no.
Was.
Well, a Madison girl tried to kill Gerald Ford, tried to assassinate Gerald Ford.
Okay.
And one dude.
I could have sworn there was a Taxi Driver related inspiration.
And one dude tried to shoot or tried to get at Jodie Foster. I think tried to assassinate her too. But those are the two parallels: is the Madison girl and the Jodie Foster thing. But beyond that, I pretty much 99.9% of the people who saw Taxi Driver doesn't empathize with this character like at all.
Sure.
I think 99% of people who see Joker won't empathize with this character at all. I think they, as much as they humanize him throughout the story, nobody's ever going to look at
if they won't empathize with him. Then why is he some sort of revolutionary symbol hero at the end of the movie when he inspires this class revolution?
Because people, and I think this is what's deeply telling about this movie. In the same way that people are willing to put aside their whatever they feel about, race or whatever they feel about whatever. A lot of people, trust me, there are a lot of racist people who would see somebody like a Joker character as the symbol. But there are also a lot of people, in the same way that when Trump got elected, there was a lot of people who voted for Obama 2 times in a row and then switched over to Trump because they felt like, despite the racist shit, despite the, whatever, despite all of the horrible things Trump has said as a human being, they're still willing to vote for somebody who changed the system as opposed to somebody who didn't. In the same way that all the characters in this movie champion the killing of Thomas Wayne's employees solely because they're rich and because that divide is so harsh, and that's something that a lot of people deal with in a lot of places. And I think that's something that that's what encourages violence and hatred against people to some extent. You know what I mean? Poor communities are more subject towards either gang violence in black communities or terrorist violence or white supremacist violence in like southern white communities. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm getting at is the fact that I've been reading a lot of articles and keeping up with a lot of news stories, but at the end of the day, the reality is the internet and social media has changed the world. And it's, you could argue better, you could argue worse, but there's certain things that are that are inevitable in society itself. And I know that's the word people keep throwing around and people are getting crazy about it. But what's happening now is there is a lot of isolation for young men, and there is a lot of stored up anger, and there is a lot of mental health issues that people go ignore, because the mental health issue in the U.S. is just something that cannot be ignored. It can't.
Right.
People
and
are dealing,
and this movie very much deals with that too.
Exactly, and there's a giant stigma towards it, towards a mental health. So even he says it in the movie. You know, if you joke about, or if you don't, what did he say? If you don't joke about your mental health, it doesn't matter, or you can fake it, something like that.
Something like that.
He writes in his notebook. But what I'm saying is all these steps, like 1, 2, 3, 4. But at the end of the day, there is this kind of cloud over this community, and you can say whatever, 8chan, whatever you want to say.
4chan.
4chan, 8chan, websites. Like, I don't want to use specific terminology because each group has their own terminology, but they call each other sergeants. They declare each other soldiers. And there's some sort of revolution against society which incites violence. And it's happened, RB3, a lot. It hasn't happened once or twice over the past 5 years. It's happened a lot, RB3, over the past 5 years. So if I'm a person from Colorado and I had to deal with The Dark Knight, I understand where they're coming from, where they feel like this movie might incite some violence, not because it's a class issue and the rich are going to reign over us and we should bow down to the rich, but because it's kind of about a crazy, angry white dude who feels lonely, has a crazy, weird relationship with his mom, and doesn't feel like he's seen. The way he becomes seen, RB3, is when he shoots those 3 guys. That's when he's finally becoming a star, and he becomes seen and becomes what he's always wanted to be, noticed.
But see, if that's really what's
that's all over 8chan. But literally,
of course, and that's what the fucked up people are. But are we saying we're gonna get no movies with any characters with any flaws anymore?
Not. No, I mean, we both love Nightcrawler. I still think Nightcrawler is one of the best movies in the past 10 years.
But Nightcrawler is far safer than Joker is, for sure.
It's but it's more realistic, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's also way more. Yeah, I mean, this is a comic book movie. At the end of the day, this is a superhero.
I feel like Nightcrawler can happen yesterday and we might have not noticed.
Yeah.
Like, that's how crazy that movie is, in my opinion. Maybe that's why I like it more.
Right.
But at the same time, you're right. I don't think we should shy away from it. All I'm saying is that there is credence to some of the backlash, not all of it, because I feel like some of it is overblown and out of proportion. A lot of the backlash is out of proportion because I feel like the vast majority of the people criticizing the movie haven't even seen the movie, and I feel like that's kind of like, come on, man. Like, if you're gonna talk shit, see the movie.
And you know, there's a lot of critics who literally went into the movie ready to hate it, and when they came out of it, they wrote scarring reviews of it. I mean, you know, so
all I'm saying is that there is a portion of this movie, whether it's the first 2 acts of the movie, that is kind of like issues that we're facing nowadays that turn into violence, and that's not a good thing. Like no matter how you paint it, whether you say, well, it's violence against, no, it doesn't. It's violence. Like most of it is against.
No,
really, man?
Yeah. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I was kidding. I was just about to name like actual. I was gonna say New Zealand is real.
What happened is the mass shootings.
The kid in California. Who ran over people.
Yeah, of course. But what the difference?
All of them were 8chan. Every single one.
Of course, and that's again
and
a
all
totally
of them felt
different.
Isolated.
But again, that's a totally different thing than having. It's the same argument as the video game. Shit that the Republicans keep pushing on us.
Let me clarify this for anyone who's listening. I'm not arguing this. I agree with you. That's the same it's bullshit. Anything can incite anything. All I'm saying is that this is the argument that people are using. I'm countering you by saying that you were saying that people were saying that they're going to rise up against the rich, and that's why the media is shooting it down. No, that's not true. They're shooting it down.
I think that's because I think that is why. I think the media is shooting it down because I think they're
shooting it down
because Twitter people are shooting it down.
Events.
The fucking media.
Who do you
plastered?
No.
Media, the news, Fox News, CNN, ABC. They'll plaster any mass serial killer up for 3 days in a row after he shoots 11 people. They'll plaster any white supremacists up on their news channels, put their faces, their names, and that's what incites more people. That is what gets more people wild up. Seeing that's what people want to become. people do those things because they want to become the Joker. They want to become a symbol. They want to be a martyr. And the news media literally does the complete opposite of what they should be doing. They shouldn't be showing the names of these killers. They shouldn't be showing their pictures. They shouldn't be showing videos of them doing the math, or when somebody had did a Facebook Live or whatever. I saw one of these news networks playing that. Can you believe that? That's what's doing more damage to the world than the fucking Joker. So the news, when I talk about the news and the media, their agenda is more focused towards the rich thing. And now we're talking about people on Twitter, or we're talking about audiences. Sure, yes, that's the joke. Yeah, that's why people are more hesitant about the Joker, because we're in a more sensitive era than we were in the 70s or even and Nightcrawler era.
Bullshit. We're not in a sensitive era. We're in an era where a ton of fucking white dudes, angry motherfuckers, are shooting up people in real life.
Right. But
I'm sorry, bro. That's not sensitive. That's real life.
But the news perpetuates that. The media perpetuates that.
I could agree with that.
Yeah.
But to say that you're
that's
just being sensitive,
the agenda.
when you
but
lose
that's
22
the agenda.
people in El Paso,
yeah, of course.
white supremacy is real, man.
Yeah, of course it's real. I'm not arguing that it's not real. I'm arguing that the media is painting the picture of the Joker, not because of the white supremacist stuff, not because of that, but because they're more motivated by they're more conservative, the more conservative leaning ideologies and beliefs. Now, of course, the backlash against like seeing a white dude like the Joker going out and killing people is disturbing. It is relevant, but we have to consider what conditions in America have led to that in and of themselves.
Agreed. And
the conditions that led to that, partially the media, a lot to do with economics, and a lot to do with the shit that we allow on things like the internet and on things like on different platforms. But was definitely 100% not causing violence is movies and video games, for sure. So that's what I'm getting at.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree. And all my argument was literally based on the arguments I've heard before.
For sure.
And that there's some credence to it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying they're right. I'm just saying I could see where they're coming from.
Right.
That's exactly what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
But because there is kind of a conversation to be had about that. I don't feel like censorship is the right thing to do, because that's not right. I don't feel like it should be censored, because art is art, and that's what it should do. That's what it's created to do.
And if anything, I think the Joker movie highlights how media is willing to exploit these kinds of stories. I mean, if they throughout the movie they show a bunch of newspaper clippings, TV clips exploiting the situation.
Sure.
That feeds into a lot of that too. So the movie The Joker feeds into a lot of different political relevant narratives too. Now that's not to say, and again, we're talking about how white supremacy plays a movie. I can have a whole separate conversation about that. I want to have that conversation.
And before we do,
too.
let me just bring up a question just to kind of close this chapter,
right.
And then I kind of want to ask you a very strong question.
Yes.
About race in this movie, but is the Joker? You don't think he's the hero in this movie, right?
No.
Okay.
No. I don't think anybody should walk into this movie and think that the Joker is the hero, or will leave this movie thinking the Joker is the hero. Yeah. He's just a character,
sure.
I think. And what I think makes this very different from Taxi Driver, and what to me makes this even a more disturbing Joker movie, is that in Taxi Driver, at least he kills people who are pimps, who are thieves. Now again, there's also times where he kills in Taxi Driver where he kills a black dude, clearly because he was just ready to shoot a black dude. So that is also a case of that too. But overall, the movie The Taxi Driver wanted to paint the Travis Bickle as a good guy because he's killing pimps at the end of it. And child molesters. This movie doesn't have any kind of morally kind of gauge for the people who's dying at the end. It's
sure.
just for all we know, the police officer was a decent guy. The police officers were decent guys. For all we know, the Wall Street guys were decent guys until they were just drinking or whatever. And obviously his mother was crazy, but that's insane to kill a mother too. So
it's a great argument to be made about movies. I'm going back to movies and less about the society itself or the reaction to movies, but movies itself. Villains always become kind of cool and kind of popular, right?
Yeah.
Some of the most famous characters in movies are villains, but they're villains. Like you can't say Hannibal Lecter is a good dude.
Oh,
like,
no,
he's famous, but he's a villain. And I can argue what I like about what's interesting for me about conversations around movies is the elevation in the worshiping of villains, only to realize that they shouldn't be, right?
Yeah,
it's kind of an interesting. This is me just spitting ball because I've always catered towards villains as a kid.
Yeah,
I've always kind of picked the guys in black, and I was like, yeah, I like that guy because he kicks ass.
Right.
Where it's happening with the Joker, for example, and it happened in 2008 with The Dark Knight, where everyone walked away from that movie being like, yo, man, Joker was badass.
Yeah.
Like, man, that guy kicked ass.
Yeah,
put him on T-shirts. People tattooed themselves, dressed up as the Joker.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the movie shows you that he was a villain, and he is crazy, and he shouldn't be worshipped. But if you want to do all that stuff, cool. If you want to buy Joker merch, good for you. Like, you shouldn't be criticized for that just because he killed people in the movie. You shouldn't do that. Like, bro, get out of here, man. Like, who cares? Like, I agree with that as long as we know he's the villain.
Yeah, and I think that's crucial. People got to understand that for
exactly.
sure. Yeah,
that's exactly what I'm saying. As long as you say, he's the villain, go ahead and put him on a T-shirt. Go ahead and be like, that was cool. I like that he did that. Or you can like what villains do as long as you recognize that they're villains.
Right.
That's why gray villains are always interesting because people actually see both sides.
Or anti-heroes.
But even movies like Black Panther with Killmonger, that's a perfect example of a villain where people are like, he made some really good points. But he still wants to kill like billions of people.
And by the way, and while I'm saying that Joker overall, the society that the Joker movie represents leads to like a revolutionary progression. He doesn't believe that at all. Like, he's killing people just because he likes doing it.
Sure.
And they make that very, very clear throughout the movie. He even says at one point, I didn't do this to start some revolution. I did this because I liked it. Like, basically. And that's really, I mean, that's real life. That's really what it, so, yeah.
Another example I'll give you, and I find this was the most fascinating conversation I saw this recent months on film Twitter, was Pennywise. Yeah. And I loved it after seeing it, Chapter 2, and I know you didn't care for it, but I talked to Sabrina about it last week, and it's a conversation that I loved because I felt like, he's the villain, guys. Like, open up your eyes, because after it, Chapter 1, Pennywise became like one of everyone's favorite characters. Yeah. They're like, man, Pennywise is shit. I love Pennywise. And there was on T-shirts. People were like obsessed over this guy. Pennywise was the shit. And in It Chapter 2, they make it a very, very, very clear point that Pennywise doesn't just inspire racist acts like in the first movie, but also like anti-LGBT acts and homophobic act, and he calls Richie.
And then people start getting more sensitive. They're like, oh, no. Not when he was trying to kill some black people.
I was going to say it, but you said it first. 100%.
Yeah.
And then people started saying, wait a minute, I liked Pennywise. He was cool. And then there was an article talking about this whole thing, and someone said, yeah, guys, the scary demonic clown that eats kids isn't a good guy or isn't progressive.
Right.
Big surprise. Like, I like that Chapter 2 made that a point. They said, oh, you like Pennywise? You won't like him now, or even Chapter 1, where it's like, you're not supposed to like him. I don't think
anybody else supposed to like him off that.
No, but what I'm saying is a lot of people were like, I liked him. And it's like, what? He's the villain. Like, let's make that clear. If you want to like him as a villain, cool. But Pennywise is evil. And evil means racist, misogynist, all the other things just as much as eating kids.
In fact, I wish that's probably my
and that's
downside.
What I remember. I talked about it with that. Maybe that's why I liked it. But I mentioned that to Sabrina the last week.
Yeah,
because I was like, that's kind of what I loved about it.
And I think that's kind of what I probably would put was one of the downsides about it. Chapter 2 is I wish they would have done more of that. I wish they would have use. I mean, obviously,
they
Pennywise.
Did, man. I really like that scene when he goes up to Richie and he starts calling him names. He starts calling him like nasty, disgusting, like ooh, I know what you do. You're disgusting. And I was like, whoa, that's low key what people say.
Yeah, I mean, I wish
that's kind of cool.
For one, I wish that would have been done for a little more subtlety. But I wish they would have. I wish they would have. No, listen. But I also wish that they would have utilized those monsters aspects in other forms. Like I wish they would have shown Pennywise to be the abusive child woman molester that Bev imagines him to be. I wish they would have showed Pennywise.
They do. They
do, but it's replaying the same beast as the first one. I think they could have had they had a lot of potential to do something different with that.
I agree. I feel like that's the studio being like, take it far, but not too far.
Yeah. I wish, you know what? I wish this movie would have. And listen, I've never read it, so I'm not, I wish this movie just would have had almost no Pennywise. It could have had Pennywise almost in the background, but I wish it just would have been like Bev dealing with her abusive husband. It would have been Mike dealing with racism. It would have been Richie dealing with homophobia, but like presently in real life without all the supernatural scares and bullshit. You know what I mean? But Pennywise kind of influencing that. You know what I mean? I wish it would have just dealt with things like that.
Can I
it didn't,
talk to you as a Warner Brothers studio head?
Yeah.
That's not possible.
It's not going to sell.
That's not going to sell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, bro, they got to. Who's the most famous? I literally just said it. Yeah. Character in the first movie, if not Pennywise himself.
Yeah. But it could have been Pennywise business, in different characters. I don't know, man. I would have done it differently.
Him in the clown form is the most iconic.
Sure.
Yeah. Back to the Joker.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about the way they hint at racial issues in this movie, or even outright say it.
Right. Well, one of the through lines that we see in like a lot of early Martin Scorsese movies, outside of it following like this kind of white supremacist kind of stand-in character, is the interaction with black people that his characters have throughout most of his movies. Particularly in Mean Streets, Mean Streets has that famous scene where Harvey Keitel is about to go on a date with a black girl, and then he literally looks like out of the window of the taxi and is like, I just can't do it, because he's so scared of what he's going to look like being with a black woman. Meanwhile, he's literally a mobster killing people on the regular, and that doesn't seem to faze him at all. In Taxi Driver, obviously Travis Bickle, when he's first starting to unravel and he's playing with his guns, he's literally pointing it as black people are playing on TV in the same way that Joker does in this movie, by the way. There are times where there's a time when a dude tries to rob a liquor store and Travis Bickle just freshly got a new gun. He's ready to pop it off almost immediately. There's a lot of interesting moments, particularly, and there's a great relationship that Robert De Niro has with one of the black characters who was in like the cabbie group. The black dude keeps calling him Killer, and does this little like cool snap thingy with him. But there's always, whenever the characters are interacting, there's always a little bit of a longer shot on the black character. There's always a little bit more of that because Travis is always looking at him just with a little bit more intent because his mind is so twisted that he interprets any black person to be a thug, a criminal, a pimp, or something like that. So this movie takes that concept and kind of runs it into 11. I mean, I was thinking during the movie, damn, is he like gonna talk to anybody other than black people? Because literally, like the first scene after he gets beat up by the kids or whatever, he's riding the bus, he's playing with the little kid, and then that's where he first learned about his like little laughing thing, that his little laughing syndrome that is actually false. But that interaction, the interactions he has with his therapist, the interactions he has with Zazie Beetz, the interactions he has with Brian Tyler Henry, also from Atlanta. Good seeing him in this movie. And
then the final interaction he has with another
it seems like
psychiatrist.
There always is seemingly a black person getting in his way throughout the story. Yeah. And with this movie being such a subjective point of view through the Joker's POV, it's clear that that's intentional. There's no for him, he's seeing black people as the means of being disadvantaged. Where his mom is trying to right Thomas Wayne and thinking, like he'll help us get better. He's seeing himself being disparaged upon the people who are surrounding him. He sees his therapist as the woman who's personally cutting his healthcare, not the institution that's cutting his healthcare or cutting his therapist time. He implies a relationship on Zazie Beetz because in his mind, ownership of a black woman is what he strives to achieve. Again, there's just countless times when Brian Tyler Henry was getting him his little files for his mom, and he freaks out because he wouldn't hand him the book or whatever. There's just so many points in this story that very directly point to his ideology. I don't even want to say subtly, but it definitely does point you in that direction for sure.
Interesting.
So I think, as we're having the white supremacist argument, that is definitely, I think, a key central part in the characterization that he represents.
Yeah.
So,
and it's something that can't be ignored. Obviously, if we lost people already, we already lost them.
Oh man, if they're 30 minutes deep.
Can I say something too? That just something that I've noticed too about this same thing, a little bit more off topic, but still on a little bit on brand.
Right.
Is the idea of white supremacy and whiteness in general. And I'm rewatching the last season of Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
I've been doing it to get ready for El Camino.
Yeah.
And I've talked to you about the complexity of that show and the way they deal with race in that show.
Right.
But there's something to be said that Walter White makes a deal with the white literal Nazis.
Yeah.
Throughout the entire last 2 seasons.
Well, he doesn't have any morale left. His morality's checked out.
Yeah, but at the later episodes, when he starts to get deeper and deeper with him, you start to realize there's something to be said about, man, you got to be a certain kind of effed up to be dealing with these guys, and not just that, but the fact that at the end of the day, if Walter White was black, he wouldn't be able to do this stuff. Like his whiteness allows him to
privilege.
His privilege, his white privilege allows him to do all this shit that he's already done. And it kind of hit me last night watching kind of the later episodes, like Ozymandias. I saw that episode again, which is incredible. It's very interesting because you could see the way they deal with Jesse, the way they deal with Jesse's girlfriends, who just so happens to be Latina.
Yeah.
They deal with different the white supremacy group just in subtle ways because they don't outright say I hate you because you're black or brown or whatever. But the way white supremacy takes a hold of something and raises it up as a hero, the way the what's his face's name? Landry. I forget his name. The cousin of the uncle. Remember, he has a nephew.
Yeah. Played by
Todd is his name.
Jesse Plemons.
No, Jesse Plemons.
Yeah.
Todd, right?
Yeah,
That's his name. The way that he worships Walter White as like, man, this guy's a badass. Heisenberg's my shit.
Right.
He would never do that if he was any other race but white. If he wasn't just this privileged white guy. And then obviously I can go back to I could do what you're doing right now about Breaking Bad, just about Latinos in general, because every portrayal of a Latino guy is again just
for sure.
a narcissistic sociopath.
Right.
But it's interesting, and I don't think it should be ignored. Questions like these, because it's an interesting conversation how people cater towards the Joker and Joker in general, in a movie level, or even on an audience level, or even on a society level, where he's worshipped as this symbol. But it's the issues he deals with in this movie are economic issues that affect everyone.
Yeah.
It's very fascinating stuff, to be honest.
Yeah. And I mean, that just goes back to a lot of the fear that was coming out during the 1970s, particularly about black people. Especially with, that was like the Nixon era, leading into the Reagan era, where people were and still coming, out of the Vietnam War, where people still have very harsh beliefs post-Civil, after the Civil Rights Movement in the 60s, a lot of people either got on their side or got completely off. In some ways, the country became more divided.
Yeah.
Even though the right policies went into act.
And movies like Taxi Driver show you
that. Even to the point where Martin Scorsese is saying the N-word.
but show you how this guy is side-eyeing black people the entire film, and yet he's the villain the whole time.
Yeah.
The irony of that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Is where he's like, I was like, well, what if that black guy does that? And the irony is like, the stuff you do is the point of the movie.
Yeah.
And you're the violent one.
And see, not even just him, a lot of the characters in this movie. Yeah. Again, like I said, Martin Scorsese literally gets in the cab talking about he wants to kill his wife because his wife is sleeping with a black dude, like on one of the floors upstairs. How twisted and fucked up Travis Bickle, for one, thinks the world is, and for two, how much people are just comfortable with that being the situation. There's also to say too, I did see I would have loved if the Joker would have had a scene where Joaquin would have went into like a porn shop and like took a girl or took Zazie Beetz to like a date to watch a porno like he does in Taxi Driver. That to me is just one of the funniest like moments I think like ever, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's crazy. I think all of the representations that Joker is emphasizing are really just more extreme versions of what we saw in like those old Scorsese movies.
Interesting.
But I think the one that they really ramped up to a 10 was the underlying fear of black people.
Interesting.
That those movies represented as well.
Yeah, my closing thoughts on the movie itself, I kind of go back to what I said initially. I enjoyed the movie, but I feel like my expectations were a little too high and it didn't reach that.
Yeah.
And then again, like I said in the review, go make sure you guys check it out if you haven't already. We reviewed this movie right here on the First Cut YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. I said that it was the predictability and the surface level kind of ideology just really didn't do it for me, if that makes sense.
Right.
And I wanted a little bit more complexity from a character like the Joker. And what I got was a sad, abused kid who got beat up and feels left out. And I was like, dude, I've seen that everywhere and so many times. And I don't know. I just kind of wanted something else that's not as like literally check mark, like on Mindhunter or something. Yeah. Like literally the Joker is a character on Mindhunter. You know what I'm saying? Like all the things. It's like, bro, I've seen this on Mindhunter like every episode.
Right.
And you've seen the show, right?
Yeah, I love Mindhunter.
Yeah, it's a great show, but it's like, bro, I get it. You have issues. Like, I don't know. I just felt like you're not as complex as people give you credit for.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, it's like I wouldn't give it necessarily points for originality.
Sure.
But I think the cinematography is wonderful. I think the
all that
music
stuff,
is
man.
great.
Absolutely,
great.
the acting is incredible. All that. He's gonna get nominated. All this stuff is true.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
And Todd Phillips did a great job directing. And we're gonna get into his movies after we go to break because I feel like we need to go to break because we've talked.
Yeah, we've been like 40 minutes. We're 40 minutes deep. We only touched one of his movies.
So after this, guys, we're gonna get into Todd Phillips directing his other movies that is not Joker. So make sure you guys stick around after the break.
This ain't funny, so don't you dare laugh. With the 4/5 divide you in half. You getting at me equals a bloodbath. You do the math, take you out the equation.
What's up, guys? We're back talking about Todd Phillips' movies. Movies that are not the Joker, RB3, or not Joker. So let's start with one of his first movies, Old School, RB3. Obviously, we're skipping Road Trip because both of us haven't seen it. I told RB3 that I've seen Euro Trip, but not Road Trip.
And I told him I saw College Road Trip, Martin Lawrence and Raven Simone. Is that what it's called?
I don't know, but I just know Euro Trip, which is Michelle Trachtenberg, I believe her name is.
Oh, what's
plays
that
Dawn on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
That's dope. That was nominated for an Oscar, right?
Which one?
Euro Trip?
No, it's like a raunchy comedy. Came out in like, I don't know, 2000 something.
Oh man.
But definitely not. Old School, man. This is kind of his. I mean, obviously, Road Trip is his like big one. Yeah. But Old School is. I feel like this is the one where people started to really pay attention to Todd Phillips, and I think a lot of it obviously has to do with Will Ferrell.
Yeah. I mean, Will Ferrell was at the height of SNL.
Yeah, this is in his prime, man.
So, and this was one of the star vehicles. And plus Vince Vaughn at the time too was like super hot. So it was just
this is pre-Wedding Crashers or.
Yeah, it was pre-Wedding Crashers, yeah. I think really this movie was kind of a prelude to Wedding Crashers to some extent for Vince Vaughn's popularity. I think this movie is really impactful because it deals with, it's obviously dealing with, going back to school and how, generational shifts occur. But it's just...
I just find it so relevant nowadays. Have you seen that SNL sketch?
Which one?
Where they do they cut to like people working in offices.
Yeah.
and they cut to like their frat house days, where it's like if basically the theme of the SNL sketch was like if you go to every single person, they probably have like a weird crazy past.
Yeah,
like they were like, your friendly neighborhood cook, hello man, and then it cuts to him like he drank 20 ounces and pulled his dick out.
Oh shoot!
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
everyone had like some crazy days.
Right. Exactly.
And it's just one of those things where it's like generational shifts of like, it's crazy because you're like, oh, that guy, you can't do that shit no more.
Right.
So I just think it's funny because it's like that concept of like college parties and the crazy shit that goes on there. But go back to old school.
Yeah, no, old school definitely emphasizes that, and it goes in hard, and how the fraternity system in America is kind of built. I mean, probably one of the funniest moments to me is when the
were you in a fraternity?
Yeah,
you were.
Yeah. Delta Kappa Alpha, baby.
Hey.
Professional STEM fraternity. If you're in any campus worldwide, maybe not worldwide, but in the United States and you're studying film, for sure look for a Delta Kappa Alpha chapter. But yeah, that's that. Obviously, ours was way different than this shit.
I was gonna say, or even the one in Atlanta.
Yeah. Which one is in Atlanta?
Was it Shake the Laffy Taffy?
The Laffy Taffy. That was funny.
That's one of the greatest Atlanta moments.
Yeah. With just like the Confederate flag in the background.
And the guys are wearing bags over their heads.
Yeah. But this movie has one of the funniest moments when the big black dude, when they have to tie the bricks to their dicks and then he throws it over and his shit just falls through the. Oh man, that was golden. But yeah, I think this movie represents the wildness, the fun of a fraternity, but also the how challenging it is for students to kind of deal with the fraternity lifestyle while being a student as well. How time consuming fraternity lifestyle is. That's something that I think a lot of people can kind of relate to, particularly with pledging.
How do you feel this compares to the other one, the toga
Animal
party?
House?
Animal House.
Oh yeah, well this is kind of modern.
It is like a modern Animal House, right?
Except the guys who
I know
were probably guys who were in Animal House are probably the age of these dudes as they are trying to throw the party. But it's very relevant in that age where we do get people of an older generation who are looking to like recapture that fraternity magic. So I like how it shows that. I think Josh would be a really good character in this movie, honestly.
He probably was in this movie.
Yeah. McCougar.
Shout out to Josh McCougar, man. I still want to have that guy in studio, man. That guy's great.
Yeah.
So Starsky and Hutch.
Starchy.
You didn't see this one, right?
I ain't seen this joint. No.
I don't think I saw this one either.
Right.
This is the Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson
based on a TV show.
But this was the Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson kind of era of comedies that they were coming out with.
Yeah.
Because back when they were pretty big. But yeah, man, I didn't see this one either. But this is also kind of in that same old school vein as far as like a Todd Phillips kind of like, raunchy comedy kind of thing.
Right.
But let's move on to another one that you have seen. Do you want to just do Hangover? You want to do
We do Hangover. We could talk about what he's produced too. I mean, he's produced Project X. I see he produced The Star Is Born, which is interesting.
Yeah, he did. That's right.
And Limitless as well, or the TV show.
It's all the Bradley Cooper ones. Man.
Yeah.
That's why he produced it. Because they're homies.
Yeah. Hey, that's dope, man. Good relationship. Salute to Project X though, man. That's the one I saw as a high schooler.
That movie's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's dope. It's a dope ass movie, right? No.
It's whatever. It's okay.
Oh man, damn. But yeah, Hangover.
Let's just do it, man. Let's just do the Hangover.
Yeah.
And we can close with
Due Date War Dogs.
Yeah. But the Hangover movies.
Yeah.
This became a staple in modern comedy.
Oh yeah,
like,
for sure.
No one would shut up about these movies. Yeah. Everyone was talking about them. Why is it RB3? Or why was that?
I think it just kind of touched the culture at just the perfect time. A lot of comedy in today's era is kind of dwindled to some extent. It's not because of what Todd Phillips thinks he's talking about with woke culture. I think it has more to do with the climate of the world in general, how we're receptive to comedy, how we receive comedy. A lot of people get their comedic fixes through like Marvel movies now, or through television, through The Office. But, so it's a different era. But back in this era, back in 2008, people were excited to see R-rated raunchy comedies. That was popular.
They paid money to see it.
It was popular.
Went to the theater to see it,
and it was popular because it was a new thing. The Hangover and Superbad really busted open the doors for the R-rated comedy kind of thing, where it became so mainstream.
Yeah, I mean there was R-rated comedies before, but you mean like the
big ones
R-rated comedies where they made a shit ton of money.
Where they made a shit ton of money, and the first Hangover won the Golden Globe for Best Comedy.
Yeah,
that came out that year. So it was literally earth-shattering how big this movie is. And I think the cultural stamp that this movie has is still felt to this day from the Mike Tyson scenes with the tiger to the chicken, like when they wake up in the hotel room.
To Asian homie, I forget his name.
Ken Jeong.
Ken Jeong.
Yeah,
yes.
Literally, I think this might have been the first thing he ever appeared in, if I'm not mistaken.
It might have been, yeah. This before Community.
I think it might. I don't know.
I think it's before Community.
Yeah, but again, it's one of the most popular. I think comedies of the recent era. One of my favorites.
How would you brand this style of comedy? What kind is it? Is it just I mean, obviously, I have thoughts, but I want to hear yours.
Right. I mean, it's raunchy. It's I think what's most interesting about The Hangover is that it's such a simple idea. The concept of waking up and having no idea. It's very relatable to how people really do get fucked up in Vegas. But it's the reason it has such an impact is because of how unpredictable it was, because of how Mike Epps could just kind of show up at the end as a drug dealer, or Ken Jeong pops up out of the trunk, or Mike Tyson punches Zach Galifianakis. And I think that's a big part of it, too. The characters are characters we never really seen before either. I mean, we're used to, like, the straight guy type of character like Bradley Cooper, and we're used to the more ridiculous stuff like Ed Helms, particularly from The Office. But Zach Galifianakis was a real find. I think this was the one that really broke him out to the mainstream, and the uniqueness of his character for sure enabled a lot of that popularity.
100%.
Yeah.
Dang, bro, that's exactly what I was thinking too. How the one person who kind of got like a break was Zach Galifianakis, because after that he became like a household name.
Right.
He was everywhere after that.
Right.
One thing, Bradley Cooper is another one, man.
Yeah.
I don't think he was big beforehand. Was he that big?
Nah, he wasn't. I mean, he was big I think he was big on TV with, I think, Alias.
Alias?
Alias, yeah, I think that's what it was.
Really?
With Jennifer Gardner, right?
Yeah.
I think he was on that.
Wow. But either way,
mistaken.
It's funny how this is the kind of the movie that made him a little bit more of a household name, and now he's become completely different because he's like a character actor who wins Oscars or gets nominated.
Right.
But beforehand, he would just do this kind of movies.
It's funny. This is a very good comedy, but Bradley Cooper's not even the funniest person in this movie. Like, nowhere near. I mean, he's fun. To me, he's funny. To me, he's probably. I think a lot of people identify him as like the kind of gateway character because he is the most sane out of these three. But even when you look at the poster, he's in the background. He's the smallest head. The biggest marketing was Zach Galifianakis because he was just a weird-looking dude with a baby and a T-shirt.
And
Ed Helms, who was big on TV from The Office.
Yeah, people knew Ed Helms.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things of like the star power that this movie kind of enables from all three of these people. I think Ed Helms broke out into another stratosphere after this trilogy came out too. So, and
I think a lot of it is the idea of the mystery, right? Like trying to figure out what happened. People love mysteries in movies, so it's the idea of
piecing it together.
Exactly, but doing that in a comedy version,
right.
Where you're allowed to do something that. This is how I define it. Obviously, this is just I'm not a comedian, so I don't know every definition of comedies or all that stuff. But random comedy is what I call it, where you can throw anything at the wall because it doesn't have to make sense, but it doesn't need to make sense because that's what makes it funny. It's the idea of the Mike Tyson scene or the idea of the chicken scene or the Ken Jeong scene. Everything in this movie is kind of just throw it at. Just it would be funny if we just see this, or and you can just do it.
You piece it all together
because it's the way you piece it all together. Because it's like a mystery. So there was a big jump. I remember 2009 because I was in high school, and there was a big jump in whether it's online videos or and stuff like that about kind of like the random comedy about just doing random weird stuff and how that became viral videos. Comedy videos back in this time were starting to become popular.
Right.
I think it might have been 2009, and it might have been 2008. But the video where just this guy is talking about chicken waffles and waffle fries at chicken sandwich and waffle fries at Chick-fil-A. Remember that video?
Yeah.
That's like around this time.
Yeah.
And that was it was just random. It was just give me some waffle fries and chicken sandwich. Remember that video?
Yeah. That was early meme era, bro.
That was early meme era.
Yeah.
But that was kind of this era. This was around 2008, 2009.
This movie's very memeable.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This is kind of what started that whole like. A lot of teenagers made this their staple movie as like their random brand of comedy, where a lot of stuff was random and goofy and funny and over the top because of movies like Hangover. I feel like maybe because it's more like my generation as far as like high school and stuff. How old were you when this movie came out? 2009.
2009. That's 10 years ago, so I was like 12. I was 12. Yeah, man.
Like, you weren't even seeing this movie, bro. You were 12.
Nah, my mom took me to see it.
Really?
Took me to see it. Yeah,
What the hell?
That shit was funny, man. It was a good time. Heather Graham's amazing in this movie. Everybody is like absolutely fantastic in this movie.
Yeah. Let's move on to part 2, man.
Part 2, a lot of people regard as a big disappointment.
I was going to say, what are your thoughts on this one?
I dug it. I mean, I think it's probably just because I was a young mind and, I didn't really care as much. Sequel's not really trying. But yeah, there's definitely a sequel that didn't really try. But I love the first one, so of course I'm going to like the second one. Like, that's just how I vibed with it, But I can see why people don't like it. It's literally the same exact movie, just different location. So
I just keep thinking of the 22 Jump Street scene where they're like, we're doing the same thing, guys. But now we got more money.
Yeah, right. No, that's literally what this movie is. That's exactly what this movie is. Just the same exact movie, just with a bigger budget and more shit happening. But I'm for it, man. I like the original Hangover. And I'm all down for another good time with the boys. So
yeah. How would you think this movie would fly now? You think it would fly?
Part 2?
Yeah.
I think Hangover Part 1 would fly today, man. Like,
really?
Yeah. They have the paging doctor scene. They
have
a lot of like kind of tough shit in that one. But yeah, I
don't even think that's that. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm from a different generation. I'm pulling the whole old man card out.
Hey, man. Nah, man. Hangover Part 2, I think quite literally had, it had the whole monkey subplot.
Yeah, I met the monkey.
Oh, shit.
How came up to my work.
Oh, was it cool?
Because they were shooting a video with it next door. Because we were working at a studio. So we rent the space.
Right.
And so a lot of people use it. And they were shooting like a video for the monkey. And it's like I remember my friend came upstairs to our little office corner. And he was like, guys, the monkey from The Hangover is downstairs. Come quickly. Everyone just like takes their headphones off and like runs downstairs and meeting the monkey and taking pictures with it. But yeah, I met the monkey. It's very, very smart. It's extremely smart. Yeah.
Oh, shit, man.
All my friends took pictures with it.
Monkeys are smart, bro. That's nuts, man.
Yeah.
They might take over. Planet of the Apes. But yeah, this quite literally might be one of the most offensive movies of all time, for sure. Hangover Part 2? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's why I asked you about Part 2.
Yeah, I mean, all of the stereotypes are extremely negative.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised Kim Jong read the script for this and was like, I'm cool with this Asian representation, you know what I mean?
I mean, I think that guy he was just happy to be there.
I mean,
man.
he is also kind of the co-star of this movie alongside of these guys.
That's a good point. They give him a bigger role in this movie because people really liked him. Do you feel like that's too much of a good thing? When people tend to like something, but it's better in small doses.
I think it's good to lean into the things people like, but I don't think you shouldn't get carried away.
Okay.
I think this movie got a little carried away with it. But,
I think so too.
But I think I had a fun. I had a fun time with this movie. A lot of people shit on this movie, but I think
it's difficult to kind of. I don't know, because critics do it every day, but maybe it's just because comedy has always been the one genre that I have difficulty. I don't want to say criticizing, because criticizing I can do with anything, but like valuing, give it a value of quality.
Right.
Do you agree with that, or do you feel like there is a clear structure of comedies that is good comedy, bad comedy, or doesn't work or works? Because there's an argument to be made that if it makes you laugh, it's good. I mean, it just did its job, right? I don't know. Maybe it's just because see things from a different point of view.
Right.
What do you think?
Right. No, I think comedy. I think. Listen, I love laughing. So anything that could get the joke down, I'm down for it. You know what I mean? Even if it requires.
Do you feel like your expectations are lower for certain comedies, or?
I think studio comedies today for sure. For sure, studio comedies aren't particularly as funny. I mean, this is probably one of the funnier studio comedies we've seen in a long, long time. But I don't think since then we've seen a big budget comedy that really like hit. I mean, probably some people argue Bridesmaids. You know, some people argue Girls Trip. My mom likes Girls Trip.
Yeah, that came out 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe 3, 2. Yeah, 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah. But those are kind of the direction that people are looking for. I don't think really people are looking for the white dudes cracking the yucks in big budget form anymore.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, I think it's because we had so many of it.
Yeah,
we had so
yeah,
much of it.
yeah,
I don't think it's
yeah.
necessarily because they don't want it. I think it's just because we've had so much. It's just oversaturated.
Yeah. Steph Rogen still's popular.
Yeah, Seth Rogen.
To me, I would consider the death of the R-rated raunchy comedies to coincide directly with This Is the End. This Is the End with
really
with Jonah Hill and James Franco.
We still get a lot of R-rated comedies, man.
No, we still get a lot of them, but do they make money? I haven't seen a single one of them get to number one at the box office.
No,
Closest one we got was like Blockers. But think about it this way: Tag didn't do great. Game Night did all right.
I didn't see any of those.
See, again,
the only ones I saw were the ones that came out this year.
Which ones came out this year?
The Seth Rogen one,
A Long Shot,
and I saw the other one, Booksmart.
Booksmart, yeah. But see, that's a variation. Again, I think that's more of a people want the variance. People want the Booksmart. People want the Bridesmaids. People want the Girls Trip. People want the kind of off-brand, not off-brand, but like the different versions of like these R-rated things. But I think Good Boys did good too, but again, that's young boys, young kids.
I think that one made the most money out of the three we named.
Yeah,
that came out this year.
Yeah. But it's tough, man. I mean, it's tough for people get connected to comedies these days.
It is tough, but I think it's tough because of TV. If I'm being honest, I think TV is just reaching like. Everything's a comedy on TV nowadays.
Yeah.
Like even the dramas are dramedies now.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's like people, like you said, get their fix, in my opinion, off TV.
Yeah.
Because comedy is like everywhere nowadays.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the easiest pill to swallow is a comedic effect.
Right.
And you can put that in anything, to be honest.
Right.
But yeah, it's interesting how The Hangover 2, and obviously Hangover 3 is what people regard as like the worst of the three.
It's funny. People regard this as the worst. It's definitely like the most different.
Yeah.
It's a very mean-spirited movie. Like let's get that off top. And I think kind of the through line that we can see through Todd Phillips' filmography is that he's kind of a mean-spirited director. Like he loves seeing his characters get hurt or injured or messed up or brutalized. Or seeing a giraffe die on a highway, like, oh, dude, that was one of the most disturbing images I think I've seen like in any movie. Like with the giraffe like driving a little car and they approach the thing, like, oh, dude, what the fuck, man? Like,
yeah.
But it's that. I mean, that's what the tone of his movies are, and this one is less of a comedy, much more of a crime drama type thriller type with John Goodman and all these gangster dudes like kidnapping them and taking them all over the place.
Sure.
I'm glad that it breaks the convention of the other movies, but it went really extreme with its depictions.
So here's some comedies that are recommended to me based off the Hangover series: Ted, Ted 2, Neighbors, We're the Millers. Horrible Bosses, 1 and 2. So those are R-rated comedies. Those were pretty successful.
Yeah,
and then the 22 and 21 Jump Street movies. 22. Which to me are like GOAT.
Yeah.
Go,
well, those are,
go.
I think now we're entering the era of like spoofing the comedy.
Sure.
I think
maybe that's why it worked for me.
Yeah, I think
it's like
it's more it's more of a spoof. That's why it's more. Even Ted is kind of a spoof of like the R-rated comedies to some extent too.
Which one?
Ted. I think
Ted.
Ted
okay.
is kind of a spoof. I mean, it's Seth MacFarlane, so he kind of makes everything kind of an inside joke type thing. But Ted 1 in particular was really popular when it came out in 2012. Ted 2, not so much, but
Ted was very popular.
Yeah, the first Ted was first one was very popular. First Horrible Bosses was popular. Again, I think
you're right. It was.
And I think,
my God.
And again, I think, and we see Horrible Bosses 2 come out in 2014. Again, I think there's literally a point where, like 2013, 2014, people were just kind of over it. You know, I think people were.
That's a good point.
I think people were more ready for the making fun of the genre.
Sure.
By that point.
I mean, let me give you the list of the 20 biggest ones, and I'll go through these very quick. Obviously, I won't stay on them, but like American Pie, Knocked Up, Neighbors. I already mentioned We're the Millers.
Neighbors is dope.
Beverly Hills Cop. Is that a comedy? I mean, do you consider buddy cop comedies?
Yeah. I consider them comedies. I mean,
I do too, but I'm just, a lot of people are purists or whatever.
Yeah.
Wedding Crashers. I already mentioned Beverly Hills Cop. The Hangover is the number 2 comedy of all time. You know what they said is the number 1 comedy of all time?
Which one?
R-rated comedy of all time. Sorry.
What's that?
Deadpool.
Deadpool? Oh, wow. Interesting.
It's not even a comedy.
Yeah.
It's a superhero comedy.
Well, I think it quantifies as comedy.
It does.
Yeah. And again, I think that just to me, it further proves the point. People are looking at superhero movies now to get their fix of other genres. To me, I am fully satisfied with Joker because instead of getting a Nightcrawler, we're getting a Nightcrawler starring a comic book character. Instead of getting
but that's IP, right? That's all. That's the power of IP.
Instead of getting a Hangover, we're getting Deadpool. Instead of getting an old Clint Eastwood, I was going to call him. Yeah, we're getting Logan. I was going to call him Clint Westwood. I don't know why I was going to. But you know what I mean. People are looking at superhero movies to kind of evoke. People want an old school spy movie. They get Captain America: Winter Soldier. So the superhero genre kind of allows for different genres to seep in. I think, to me, Shazam is a perfect example this year of a great, maybe not great, I don't think it's great, but of a good comedy superhero movie. At least most people regard it that way. Come on, man. The reviews are pretty good with Shazam. Why are you hating, dog?
I just didn't care for it.
Nah, listen, I didn't care for it either, but it got like 90% Rotten Tomatoes. So.
Part of the 10.
Yeah. I went to the premiere and I still can't look at that movie.
Yeah.
Salute to Warner Brothers.
Yeah, we did review of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, man. It's an interesting conversation that these kind of comedies are now kind of found on HBO or. Yeah. I can see this on HBO.
Yeah, I mean, people also like TV.
As a show is what I mean.
People like TV because you could just, like, undo the cuffs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially on Netflix and Hulu.
Netflix, HBO, Hulu.
I mean, all
of them can be R-rated.
You know what really changed my perception of everything when I was watching the Emmys this year? And every single comedy category went to a streaming platform, besides Barry. Yeah. But literally every single award went to Amazon, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
There you go. Let's finish up with War Dogs, man. What do you think about this movie?
Yeah, War Due Date too. We can talk a little bit about Due Date. Due Date, that's pretty brief, but I mean, Robert Downey Jr.
Downey.
Yeah, Zach Galifianakis.
The GOAT.
Again, very mean-spirited movie. I watched this one almost, I think, a couple days ago.
Robert Downey gives no Fs.
Yeah.
He's the kind of guy who just does not care.
He literally spits on the dude's dog.
Yeah, this guy
tells him he has no chance to make it in Hollywood.
You tell this guy that they're going to give him money, and he's like, I'll do it.
It's so funny. Zach Galifianakis' character is a dude who wants to come to Hollywood, and his name is. I forgot
about Jamie Foxx in this movie.
Oh yeah, Jamie Foxx. Yeah, he plays the retired football player. Yeah, it's my boy Jamie Foxx, my best friend. If you didn't know that, Ethan. Yeah, Zach Galifianakis is Zach Galifianakis plays Ethan Tremblay or whatever, Tremblay. But the funniest joke in the movie to me is like when he's like, "Oh, your license actually says your name's Ethan Chase." I was like, "Why'd you change your name to Ethan Chase?" I thought that didn't sound like a real name, so I went with Ethan Tremblay or whatever. Like, or I thought he thought it didn't sound like a good stage name. Like what Ethan Chase? It sounds like the most amazing stage name, but whatever. Yeah, this whole movie is just great, man. I laugh at this movie regularly. Again, super fucked up. And by the way, the amount of shit that they survive in this movie is crazy.
I think that's the point.
Yeah, they get into mad car accidents, mad vehicular. You know what I mean? They're smoking pot while driving. It's all kinds of craziness. Zach Galifianakis literally ends up messing up the wire transfer, so they can't stay in a hotel. So then they end up getting beat up by what's the homie Eastbound and Down, Danny McBride. Playing like a vet in like a wheelchair, like busted out the stick and fucked them up. It's a great movie, man. Really funny movie. Robert Downey Jr. gets shot. It's one of the funniest jokes. It's great.
Oh my God, Robert, man.
Yeah, he thinks his wife is cheating on him. Jamie Foxx.
I remember that interview where Jamie Foxx was talking about Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
He called him, I think he called him RDJ.
Yeah.
And he's like, yo, RDJ, my boy, man.
Yeah.
I take a bullet for that guy. I love that guy. He's my boy.
Yeah.
Because it might have been the Howard Stern interview where he was talking about, what was that movie? Tropic Thunder?
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, were you cool with that? And he's like, nah, man, I'm totally cool with that.
Did you know, by the way, I was going to tweet this. I'm probably going to tweet it tonight, actually.
Yeah.
Back in 08 or 09 when Heath Ledger won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, you know how they have back in those days, they used to have individual actors present like individual winners. So then Robert Downey Jr. was nominated in that same category for Tropic Thunder for playing the blackface. And literally they had Cuba Gooding Jr. go out there and be like, are we okay with this, guys? Huh? Like, damn, that's to throw out Cuba like that, man.
Was he not? I didn't see this. Was he joking or not joking?
Well, he was joking, but it's also ridiculous that the Academy thought, oh yeah, like we're gonna get over this blackface shit, right? Let's just throw Cuba out there.
That's like their way to be like,
see, he's cool,
yeah.
he's cool. Like
that's so funny.
Nah, it's crazy.
Oh man, RDJ, man, you crazy. Jonah Hill and Miles Teller in a different kind of movie, or I don't know how else.
It's more of a crime. Crime
it's
drama.
not quite a comedy, but it has a comedic tone throughout.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
This movie was, I don't want to say controversial, but kind of controversial. I don't know if you remember. Kind of, yeah.
Oh, what's it controversial for?
I guess it was just too much for some people about like. I don't know. I didn't quite get the controversy, but
yeah, people did have. I mean, listen, people have hot takes about everything. People have scorning hot takes for this one. I think this movie is probably one of the better, if not the best, Todd Phillips movie outside of Hangover.
Interesting.
And maybe I haven't counted Joker in this, but probably Joker would probably be number one. I'd probably put Hangover 2, and probably this number 3 because it is so different. It is like a crime drama. This is what Hangover 3 wanted to be, but Hangover 3 was like a very still trying to be a comedy type thing. This is a really dramatic piece, and it uses a lot of aspects. Again, like he is clearly a Martin Scorsese fan. This movie feels like a kind of a Martin Scorsese-ish type film.
Absolutely. I mean, the way it's directed, 100%.
Yeah, very stylized with the big camera movements and the stylistic music and everything like that. Jonah Hill in this movie is next level.
Literally gonna say, what do you think of Jonah Hill?
Jonah Hill's great, man. I mean, I love this. Like, I love seeing Jonah Hill just like ham it up, like two-time Oscar nominee, Jonah Hill just getting in here and just going all in.
What do you think about him being the Joker? Not Joker, the Batman villain. Robert Pattinson.
Oh yeah, is he?
He's being rumored as the Batman villain.
Oh, cool. Is he going to play?
They said whatever he wants to play. They literally said Penguin, Riddler are like the top 2 choices, but like something like that would probably be what he plays.
Yeah.
What do you think?
That's cool, man.
Yeah?
I'd love to see Jonah.
Are you a Jonah Hill fan?
Yeah, I'm a big Jonah Hill fan. That's my guy. Wolf of Wall Street. Everything he does, everything he touches.
He directed a movie last year, right?
Mid-90s.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it okay?
It was all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
A24 salute though. A24.
A24.
But yeah, Jonah Hill's crazy in this. Miles Teller is Miles Teller.
I was gonna say Miles Teller's a different.
You know what this movie reminds me of a whole lot that nobody made the comparison. Michael Bay's Pain and Gain. I feel like this movie had a very similar tone to Pain and Gain.
Totally.
Yeah,
You're totally right.
Yeah.
I think the oversaturated
look for sure.
It's kind of what stands out the most. It looks like everyone's sweating profusely.
Yeah, right.
Which they probably were.
Yeah, with all those hot lights on them. Yeah. Super bright, overexposed. Yeah. But I liked Pain and Gain, and I like this movie a whole lot too. And I think this movie is a lot less cynical than Pain and Gain was, but this movie is still pretty relatively cynical.
It's still pretty. Yeah, I was gonna say it's still kind of cynical. For
yeah,
sure.
yeah, and great commentary this movie indulges on and talking about.
That's right. Tell me what it's about for anyone who doesn't know.
What's about Jonah Hill's character? He uses, because the government has to order a certain amount of bullets or a certain amount of guns and bullets to meet their overblown military budgets. So a lot of times they gotta sell a lot of shit or they gotta trade a lot of shit. So Jonah Hill's character figured out a way in and how they could become super profitable off of selling and exchanging guns and stuff like that. So it's based on a real life story. And yeah, I think overall, just, it's not particularly historically accurate. And I'm a pretty big stiffler for historical accuracy. But it does get the overall concept right of like, utilizing the whole war movement for profitability and how that greed can overcome somebody to the point of their downfall. So
yeah,
and a lot of people make the Scorsese comparison because it's very similar to Goodfellas and like the structure of the rise and the fall type thing. So
it just blows my mind, right? The idea of ethics and morals kind of going out the window once money is involved.
Yeah, even Miles Teller's wife is like, Miles Teller's wife hates the war. She doesn't want any participation in it. But he goes behind her back and lies to her about it because that's just the way he wants to make money. He's broke. Yeah. He's just massaging back. So no one to do that his entire life.
Yeah, so, it's crazy. It's absolutely. I mean, the story itself is absolutely insane, and obviously, like you said, it's not quite historically accurate, but it still is a story to be told nonetheless.
For sure.
That pretty much concludes our conversation on Todd Phillips in general. Yeah. Obviously, this guy is kind of surrounded in a mist of questions and conversations and discourses, and I think that's fine. Yeah. I'm very curious, RB3, how award season is going to pan out for Mr. Todd Phillips. Whether it be the Critics' Choice Awards, whether it be the Golden Globes, whether it be the Oscars themselves. How is the conversation around Todd and Joaquin and the movie itself, Joker, is a conversation to be had in the future, obviously. But to me, it's already a question that I'm asking myself. The box office has made a statement already. The audience has made a statement already. The critics have made a statement already. Yeah. But now it's time for the proper people of the Academy and all those dudes to make a statement.
It's funny. We see Joker has a 9.0 on IMDb. It has an overwhelming audience score on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's got a 69% on Rotten Tomatoes.
But the audience score is like 90.
Audience score. It's got a B+ cinema score.
Yeah.
Which is what I expected.
Really,
so
relatively
it's kind
positive reaction.
Absolutely. But it's like massive profitable as far as success.
Yeah.
And pretty positive reaction.
Yeah.
Is that good enough to sway the Academy to?
Yeah, I think we've seen. I think the Academy. I think the only people who have really not vibed with this movie as much are critics, and I think what the Academy has shown throughout their history is they don't give a fuck about critics.
That's true.
They nominated Bohemian Rhapsody, one of the
terrible movie.
I think they have a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's because it's a bad movie.
Yeah.
It's a bad movie.
I think they even nominated. What was that one 9/11 movie? Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. I think they had a 58% on Rotten Tomatoes and nominated that for Best Picture.
Yeah.
So I think this movie.
To be fair, the critics haven't hated this movie, and to say that is just not true.
Yeah.
People think 69% is bad. It's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. No, but I think it is indeed a little lower than what I at least anticipated.
I agree with that.
Well, I think mostly, especially coming out of Venice Film Festival winning. And again, I think Venice is more of an indicator of what the Oscar possibilities of this movie might look like because of we've seen a lot of Oscar winners, Best Picture winners come out of Venice Film Festival. And we see that filmmakers are somewhat connecting with this movie because they like Martin Scorsese. And
that's exactly what it is, RB3.
Yeah.
I really do feel like if they're going to nominate this movie, it's literally just because, I like Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
And then nominate it. That's just my opinion.
And it was well done.
And it was well.
I mean, they can't not nominate Joaquin though.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. But I just feel like this movie is just not Oscar. If I'm being honest, it's not Best Picture level. It's just not.
I don't.
It's not.
I'm 50-50 on it. I think it could be Best Picture.
It's good. It's a good movie, but Best Picture. Come on now.
I don't know about it winning Best Picture, but I could definitely see it being nominated. I put this in the same. I put this in the same league.
I just personally don't think it should be.
Yeah, I put this in the same league as like Logan. You know, if it gets the Best Adapted Screenplay nomination, Best Actor nomination,
okay,
it definitely cannot be ignored for is cinematography, acting, original score. I think you can't ignore those. I think you can't.
100% agree.
Yeah,
I'm just talking Best Picture. I agree with everything you're saying. But to me, the Best Picture one is the one where I'm like,
I think if anything, Todd Phillips has been shooting himself enough in the foot to like.
He's not gonna get nominated. For it. I think he was. Coming out of Venice. Now, like you said, he shot himself in one foot and then he went to the other foot.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that concludes our conversation with Todd Phillips. Let us know down below. What is your favorite Todd Phillips movie? What did you think of Joker? Whatever you want to know, comment down below. Obviously, guys, I'm referring to the YouTube channel. Come over to the YouTube channel if you haven't already.
First
cut.
Yeah, we just put out a throwback episode of our 26th episode, the meaning of the Meaning of the Dark Knight.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that episode.
Yeah. So it's back on our YouTube feed for you to enjoy.
Make sure you guys check that out, and make sure you guys like, subscribe, do all that good stuff on iTunes, on Spotify. Make sure you guys follow us. We're going to be here talking about other movies in the future, so make sure you stick around. Alrighty, guys, for the Meaning Enough podcast, I am Ace.
This is RB3.
And we're peacing out. Peace out, guys.